performance guarantee, stormwater management agreement, and maintenance inspections. Looks like I didn't finish my slide, but these are the recommendations. It sounds like Mr. Wagner is not in favor of this, and so now is submitting a whole new plan. Here's Mr. Wagner's site plan. It's another revision. It's the 9th, maybe 10th. Doesn't address the height of the walls within the 10-foot side yard setback. This is also not an as-built drawing. Gordy Frazier responded, and they have a lot of questions, it sounds like. And according to Mr. Green, it seems that they're still waiting on a response from Mr. Wagner's engineer as of Monday or Tuesday, according to the report he submitted. This is the final part of the ZBA ruling. The as-built drawings are to be submitted to Garfield Township Building Department, Eagle, Soil Erosion, Land Use, and the Township's engineer for approval prior to restart. No as-built plans have been submitted. In conclusion, here's the zoning ordinance. All of this is covered. So the ruling of the ZBA September 2024 is covered under the zoning ordinance. Everything is there. It's been written, the September 2024 ZBA ruling as written is in compliance with the zoning ordinance. A land use permit can be contingent upon compliance with the stormwater ordinance. The zoning ordinance requires that the violations on the property be addressed prior to the restart of work. I should have set those in a little bit because they're just my comments to support the first comment, which is that the ruling is in support of the zoning ordinance, and that's all I'm asking. And then those are the violations again. And that's it. That's all I have.
Thank you. Board members, do you have any questions for Ms. Boyd?
Well, I have a question with regard to how much of this is speculation on your part and how much of this is fact.
What do you mean?
Well, you've laid out a bunch of alleged violations of different ordinances and whatnot, and I don't know if anybody's made a determination as to whether or not these things are true.
Mr. Green has determined that they are true. Mr. Green has determined that these are violations.
Is that true, Mike?
Ooh, depends on what we're talking about. All right.
Go ahead.
I don't know. I guess it depends on what we're talking about. There's
Well,
a whole lot of things that are brought up. The stormwater reviews would tell me that if our engineer says that the stormwater review, in their review that it meets the ordinance, the stormwater ordinance, then I would say that that's not a violation. But right now, we're talking about right now, Mr. Wagner we haven't issued a permit since September of last year. So I haven't been able to issue a permit because he hasn't met all the terms of the September 24th or 2024 agreement. He seems to be making some strides toward it, but he hasn't done everything he needs to do. So right now we have a site that has a suspended permit, and there are some, there's been a lot of work done. We've issued permits, and she's appealed every single one of them up to this point.
There's only been 2. I've appealed 2.
There's been 3 permits, actually, but yeah, you've appealed twice. But anyways, since the last decision, no permit was issued. So she's not appealing me issuing a permit because I didn't issue one since September. Because Bill hasn't completed all the engineer reviews. He hasn't yet paid the performance bond. He hasn't, submitted a maintenance plan to us. So no permit has been issued. I haven't allowed him to do anything since September. I have allowed him to submit the plans to Gordy Frazier, our township engineer. He's been able to do that, and they've reviewed it as long as his escrow account is at least brought up to, to 0. So, and we've worked that out through our, we've had some conversations on that, but we believe we've complied with our own ordinances in terms of that. But in terms of violations right now, I mean, the only violation is the work is done without a permit, but
Mr. Green,
Excuse me, I'm talking.
Is the wall?
I'm talking. Please don't interrupt me. I'm trying to answer a
Okay.
question, okay? He's done work one time. He came in and he did grading work. We went to the attorney, we threatened him with legal action. He stopped. He came back and he continued the process of working to obtain permits and design plans and all that, so. So I don't know. I guess I don't know how to answer your question. The site is now in violation because there's current activity there that's not permitted, but Mr. Wagner's trying to address that. He's taken steps to try to get the permits for it, so it's a legal project.
So the follow-up question would be, is this meeting or hearing or what have you premature? In other words, are we waiting for some action before we can make a decision on anything?
Well, I would say so. I mean, you have the legal opinion from the last meeting that lays out why we believe there's nothing to appeal, why we believe there's no grounds to this appeal. And I'll let Ross, our attorney, address that. He is here tonight. So I guess I'm gonna hold any further comment on that for now, unless you think I should bring something up now.
The only thing I would say is maybe you can speak to the height of the fence, or the height
Oh.
of the walls, because that's what the.
Oh, yeah.
mentioned, And that was actually discussed in
Mhm.
that September meeting,
Mm-hmm.
not addressed in the minutes, but it was discussed.
Right. So the permit, thank you. The permit that was issued, that was suspended in September, was to do the project, but it was subject to section 515 and 535, the walls and fence section, the ordinance. So at the end, the permit, at least the permit, the way the drawings look to me, I don't see any notes on there that says, here's an 8-foot wall or here's a 9-foot fence wall. There's nothing on the plans that tell you that there's violations. The permit, and yeah, they're right there. So it's subject, the whole project is subject to him eventually meeting the requirements of 515 and 535, which he will have to demonstrate prior to the final of the permit. Before I can give him a final approval for that permit, the final grading, final wall heights, fence height, anything that's built by the end of this project has to meet those requirements. Right now, he has a half-finished project. There are walls that at least appear that the grading hasn't been finished. So the current grade, from the current grade to the top of the wall might exceed 7 foot. But at least the way the plans show, the finished grade to the top would be 4 foot or less.
And that's how it's measured, from the top of the grade to the top
Yes.
of the fence?
Yeah, it's not
So if he fills in
it's not
some
from
of that
current
in,
grade,
we're
it's
gonna
from
be
finished
7
grade.
feet.
Yes.
Is that grade measured from the property line or?
No, it's just at that point of the wall. So at any point of that fence or wall, the
If-
height cannot exceed 7 foot from the grade at that point to the top of the wall or fence at that point. It's
If-
not measured from one point on the property.
But if you put in a retaining wall, then build a fence on top of the retaining wall, where is the grade? The bottom of the
From the bottom of the retaining wall. And we did address that. At least I clarified that in the September meeting. So the combination of the fence and the walls cannot exceed 7 foot in height in the riparian buffer area and the side yard. And that was acknowledged in the last appeals hearing. We did acknowledge that. The permit addresses it. So
And
even if today, if what he has there today doesn't meet the requirement, he still has to have the opportunity to finish the project.
It's
Well,
not
the-
finished.
He's been under appeal, just to give you an example here, since she filed the appeal back in, was it May 6th of this year, up to now, he has not been able to do any work, because the law says that he is prevented from doing any construction throughout the whole period from when she files the appeal to when this decision is made here. So even if he wanted to correct it, he can't. I can't let him do anything. If there's violations, I can't let him correct it, because he's under a stay of activity, which as of today has lasted 112 days. So he's been prevented from doing work for 112 days, which is pretty much the entire summer. And she knows this. She's done this 3 times. So last year, she filed her first appeal. He lost 30 days of construction. Second appeal, he lost 41 days of construction. And we issued permits, but as soon as the permits were issued, she appealed them. So he might have did a couple days worth of work before the appeal came down and he had to stop. So it's not like everything he did was without a permit. I think that's a mischaracterization of what has happened. He has done some work without a permit. I'm not saying Bill is completely innocent in this, but we have issued him permits, and he has at least done a little bit of construction under those permits.
Well, Mike, let me ask you the question that I asked at the end of last meeting, and that was, why don't you give this guy a shot to finish his work and see what happens? I think this whole thing is premature.
Mhm.
I mean,
Yeah.
how, you're speculating as to whether or not the guy's gonna be in violation or is in violation?
That's not true, sir.
Okay.
I can produce emails from Mike Green stating that this is a violation. He sent an email to Bill saying this wall is in violation of this ordinance.
Well, it's kind of a catch-22, ma'am, because it's a circular argument. We're saying he can't do any work unless he cures the violations, and he can't cure the violations unless he does the work. So,
So simply, my frustration is that Mr. Green seems to waffle on these things back and forth, and he reassures me that he's going to address something at the property, and then another 10 months goes by. I'm not the one that's preventing Mr. Wagner from doing work. Mr. Wagner did not participate in the process for 10 months. He didn't pay the engineers. He didn't submit any plans. He hasn't submitted any corrections to these problems. So this is not me preventing Mr. Wagner from doing work. This is Mr. Wagner built an entire drain system knowing that he was in violation, knowing that he needed a stormwater permit. He built it in July of 2023 after he was issued a violation, and he was not issued his first permit through this department for nearly an entire year. June 12th of 2024 was his first permit issued by Mike Green. He was issued that permit to correct the water that was flowing onto my property that I presented at the meeting in May of 2024. He was issued that permit, and instead of correcting the water flow onto my property, he built this new large wall. I emailed Mike Green. I said, what gives here? He hasn't corrected the water. He just built this big wall. Mr. Green responded to Mr. Wagner, and I can produce the email where he says, this wall appears to be in violation of these ordinances. You need a permit. They put him under a stop work order. These are not my rules. These are your rules. I'm asking you to enforce your rules. It seems a little bit odd that Mr. Wagner can increase the height of his own property by like 5 feet and 9 inches. Doesn't that seem excessive to you? I did notice on the engineering application that Mr. Wagner would be required to obtain an easement from the south property owner, that'd be John, he's sitting over here, to do the fill, 4 feet of fill. So I'm wondering, does he need an easement from me to increase the height of his property at that location, which is a couple feet from my property line, by 2 feet so that his wall falls within the 7 feet height limit? This seems really silly to me. He built a wall that's going to be 9 feet within a couple feet of the property line. That's why I'm here. I want him to fix it. I'm not really understanding why there's all this maneuvering.
Well, with all due respect, we're just going round and round and round.
Exactly.
In circles. My suggestion would be you submit to arbitration or mediation and live with or die with whatever that person or persons comes up with as far as an answer to this problem.
Okay.
That's an independent person that you can both present your evidence to, because I'm not sure, Mike, if we're in a position as a board to make these kinds of decisions. I think you need to,
Just like you're not an attorney, we're not engineers.
right.
We
I
rely on
agree.
the township engineer. And
I agree.
I have confidence in Gordy Frazier.
I've been in agreement with Gordy Frazier on multiple occasions. It's Mr. Wagner who has done his work outside of the engineering guidelines.
But don't you object to the final project that Gordy Frazier's approved?
No, Gordy Frazier here said to put a liner in the drain. I'm in favor of that. Gordy Frazier said to require a stormwater guarantee, or a performance guarantee. I've agreed to all of these stipulations. I'm not the one that keeps moving the target. I agreed to the first revision by Gordy Frazier. Mr. Wagner did not build according to Gordy Frazier's recommendation. That's why the drain continues to fail. I proved that in one of my presentations.
When you say it fails, explain.
The water comes out of the corner of the drain and drains onto my property.
Do you really think it's practical to prevent 100% of any water runoff?
It's not 100%, but I do think that the drain could be built properly, and it's
Seepage-
not.
The seepage that I saw was a pretty small amount.
It still continues to run onto my
It's
property.
such a small amount, it's never gonna wash anything out. I mean, if you have a 100-year rainstorm, maybe, but that's beyond anybody's expectation.
Mr. Wagner, it seems, has unloaded some of the load to his drain. If he redirects his roof and then after this meeting puts it back into the drain, then what? That's my concern.
speculation.
The drain was pouring out water onto my property. I showed you videos of the drain as it poured water onto my property. Gordy Fraser recommended a correction. I said, great. Mr. Wagner did not fix it according to the Gordy Fraser correction. The drain continues to pour water onto my property. I come back to you and say, hey, he didn't fix it according to this recommendation. He's been required to go back, and Gordy Fraser made another recommendation. Put a liner in the drain, redirect the water away from the property
Has there
line.
been any serious erosion since he put the drain in?
I believe he's offloaded the drain by redirecting his roof gutters. So my concern is if the drain continues to exist, that after this meeting is done, there's not a stormwater guarantee. Why can't we have a stormwater guarantee on this drain that hasn't been built to an engineering recommendation, that has been built without a permit and revised without a permit?
I think part of the goal here is in the end, it will be built to engineer specifications.
That's what I want. That's exactly what I want. The appeal was
We've
because
said that in meetings before. If he complies with everything, we're all happy about it.
that's great.
Is there,
He was doing work without a permit again. That's
Is-
why I'm here.
is there a way that he could fix the drain issue before we issue a permit for him to continue the work?
Say that again.
Is there a way that he could fix the drain issue before Garfield Township issues a permit to finish
Give him a temporary permit.
I
for
suppose so.
one specific
But you're
item?
gonna have to identify what that drainage issue is. I mean, if there is an issue, I guess then it needs to be identified by an engineer or someone.
It has. in
Verify. What
Gordy
engineer?
Fraser's letter.
Who's your engineer?
Gordy Fraser said,
Oh, they're our engineer.
put a
They're-
liner in the drain.
Right, but where's the proof that that hasn't been done?
Ask Mr. Wagner if it's been done.
Okay, so if you want a liner put in, if you want him to do work just on her side of the property, I suppose you could do that. If you just want to say, you know, start with her side of the property, put the liner in, and
It's
then,
not-
but then you gotta stop till, you know, we get all the other approvals, but I don't know. I'm gonna let our attorney's here, I'm gonna let him advise on that, so. I don't, yeah.
The liner's in place, the liner's in place if that helps at all.
It's
The
a,
liner- The liner was in 20 minutes after I found out
Mhm.
that there was a leak going through that corner about a year ago. 20 minutes later, I had it fixed. It should have been.
Were you aware of that, Ms.
Soil
Boyd?
erosion issue.
he didn't fix
Excuse me,
it.
Mr. Wagner.
He didn't fix it properly. I showed pictures at the last meeting. He attached the liner above the level of where the water leaks. So in his mind, he fixed it, but he reburied the drain before it was inspected. So it was not inspected, which was the requirement. Get a permit, build according to the plan, get it inspected. It was not inspected. It was buried.
I don't know. I didn't see the liner.
No, there's not a water impermeable liner. There's a filtration liner. That's different.
Mr. Wagner, we're gonna try and keep this civil and, well, you'll get your chance to talk. Thank you.
Today,
Yes. Did Gordy Fraser, are they aware of this liner being put in?
No, they haven't had the chance to inspect anything yet, but that is part of the approval, if I understand correctly.
Yeah.
You know, they have to go and do inspections and make sure everything's up to code, so if they need to have them dig up the corner and verify that it's a proper liner, we can make them do that. But, you know, the conditions, you made specific conditions to address this project. address this project. And I guess I can only comment on those.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm not a,
that was pretty clear.
yeah. That's why we had the performance bond, that's why we had the maintenance inspection, because we had concerns about work that had been done up to this point. And, you know, and our inability to be there every minute of the day watching this construction, and I guess that gets to another point, you know, we put in the agreement, I think the engineer would go at certain times, like if he'd done certain work, they could go and supervise that work. But they're not gonna be there on site 24 hours watching everything that he does, and, because no one does that. I mean,
But
there's not
typically-
a project out there where you
Typ-
have a 24-hour inspection.
Typically, an engineer, when a part of a project is done, they inspect it and approve it.
Mhm.
That apparently didn't happen.
No.
Because their hands are tied, they can't do anything because we've stopped them.
I don't think you've stopped the engineers from performing an inspection.
Well, you've stopped them, of course.
I have
Sam
not
corrected.
stopped anyone from performing an inspection. That's an expected part of this process.
Well, as I indicated last time, if you just work together, I mean, I'm not your attorney, but you have an alternative. Go to circuit court, file a suit, have a judge decide, and the judge is most likely is gonna send it to arbitration.
Sir, I'm asking you to just enforce the laws that are established through Garfield Township. That's it. Obtain a permit, build according to a plan, and then have it inspected. That if you don't follow that process, then what is the message? The message is you can do whatever you want and then hire a fixer like Mr. Elhart.
Ma'am, all we
To
can do
fix
is
it.
rely on Mr. Green and his panel of experts, what have you, to advise us as to what should be done.
I understand.
It seems reasonable to me that Mr. Green has been enforcing our ordinance the legal way he knows how to, and that's by putting in a stop work order, putting in stipulations for Mr. Wagner that he has to follow and he has to agree to, and he has to abide by to release that stop work order and issue a permit. In my view, I believe Mr. Green is following the right channels.
I agree. This is confusing and complicated, and like you said, we're kind of going around in circles here. Gee whiz. Any other questions for Ms. Boyd? Bob? Anything? Anything from you, Michael?
No, I did want to add one thing, if you don't mind.
Not at
You know, I think getting back to the question about inspections, you know, our Gordy Frazier, they're professional. I would trust them to let us know, let Mr. Wagner know if they go out and do an inspection and there's too much covered up, that they would make sure somehow that it's at least to their comfort level that he's installed something per the approved plans. And your agreement or your order from last year allows that to happen. So, I guess, for example, if there's dispute over what's buried in the ground and they don't know what's there, they can ask him to dig it up. You know, we can have them dig it up and show them, you know, if we have to. Here, dig up this corner so I can see what kind of a liner we're looking at. There's practical things that we can do, and we'll do. And, you know, everything she lists that's in all your requirements, all the permit conditions, I have every intention of following those. I have every intention of making sure Gordy Frazier follows those things. I don't disagree with anything. I mean, we've had our attorney working with us since May, or actually from April. So he's been, you know, making sure that we're following procedures, making sure we're holding Mr. Wagner to account, and basically telling him if you don't move forward towards completion and compliance, that we reserve the right to take other enforcement actions. We've been doing that for months now. I have Chris Barchef here as the township manager. He's been working with me and with our township attorney. We've been meeting with, you know, our engineers. We met with Bill Crane and his engineers. We've had a lot of conversations over the past several months. It's not like we're just sitting here letting things happen. That is just not the truth, not even close to the truth. And I think another thing too is to say that the finished product does not meet the require or is not going to work or it's going to cause trouble, I think is speculative. Unless Ms. Boyd can obtain some kind of evidence from an engineer that says, yeah, your plans don't address this or that or something, you know, some kind of design professional. If I pulled some information
Take it one
here.
step further and get an independent analysis done, so nobody can complain on either side.
Exactly.
That would be my suggestion. The two of you get together, fire yourself an arbitrator, skip the court business and see what the arbitrator comes up with and live with it. And if you can agree to that, I mean, that'd put this thing to bed.
I'll take your recommendation under consideration.
Okay.
Well, with all due respect, we've tried that. I'm not allowed to tell you what mediation was about.
No, was it mediation or arbitration?
Go ahead, Mike.
Okay.
Sorry.
So anyways, beyond that, and just speaking to my point here, you know, I'm reading this stuff from Michigan State University and some other legal briefs here. One of the things about appeals, and we haven't talked about this yet, but, you know, the Supreme Court, there's a case, Saugatuck Dunes Coastal Alliance versus Saugatuck Township. The Michigan Supreme Court heard the case and came out with some general guidance in terms of how appeals should be handled. And out of that came a 3-point litmus test for appeals. One of the litmus tests, and you have to meet all three of these. One is, do you claim some legally protected interest or protect a personal pecuniary or private property right that's likely to be affected by the challenge decision? Probably could meet that. Provide some evidence of special damages arising from the challenge decision that is different in kind or more significant in a degree than the effects of others in the local community. So actually, there's only 2 points. I apologize. So, but it says some evidence of special damages. I guess I'd submit to you, what does that mean? There's some guidance that says it has to be substantial and material evidence. That's also been addressed in other legal opinions related to this ruling. So, substantial material evidence of the record. I have not seen one engineer refuting our engineer reviews or refuting anything. Nothing, no evidence, just assertions, allegations. That's all I've seen the whole 2 years we've been going through this.
Mr. Green, I'm not refuting Gordy Fraser. I'm
Mhm.
agreeing with them.
Okay, that's good.
Well, and again, I don't think it's really realistic to assume that 100% of any runoff is going to be prevented. It's just not practical.
I agree with that, but Mr. Wagner has concentrated his runoff to this location at the property border, whereas before it was distributed onto the property.
Well, Mike and I did a walk around the site, and
Good.
first off, he's doing it really, I think aesthetically, it's beautiful, what he's done. I wish he'd finish it. I'm sure he does too. But I looked at where your properties meet, and I didn't see any runoff whatsoever. You've got a lot of vegetation, so does he. He's got drainage there. It looked, and again, you know, there's always going to be a little seepage from a wall even with a liner. So
Yeah.
and it's, you know, if Gordy Fraser has to inspect this and say, yeah, he did the right thing, or no, he needs to fix it, I suppose that's something that can happen, but
I would appreciate that.
boy. So, if no one has any more questions, anyone in the audience have any comments on this? I'll close this to the,
Yeah, Bill Wagner might
Oh.
want to say something.
yeah, Bill, would you like to speak on this?
Yeah.
Mr. Wagner, excuse me.
Here,
Yeah.
she'd like to.
Can you help me close this out? I don't know how to make it.
Yes, ma'am. We're going to have Mr. Wagner speak first.
No, she can go ahead.
Oh, all right, okay.
She's a neighbor across the street.
Okay.
As soon as they want to give up the podium.
Okay.
We're
I
not,
want to make her walk up here twice.
we're just ejecting the disc.
Can you introduce yourself, please?
I'm Mary Murphy, 1622
Oh,
Lake
she,
Drive.
she needs to be up to the mic, sorry. Yeah.
They'll be out of your way in a second. Unless you want to help them with the technology.
Can we just move the computer?
Sure, that's fine.
Yeah, let's just move the
Yeah.
computer.
Okay, we'll do that.
Okay.
I'm Mary Murphy, 1622 Lake Drive. I have a question. I saw that on the agenda, an appeal from Mr. Wagner was coming up, and I wondered if making a decision on this before you hear what he has to say is going to be fruitful.
It's two separate issues.
But if he gets the appeal on the storm drain granted, then that solves this problem, doesn't it?
Kinda. It's a little more complicated than that.
Okay.
I wish it were that simple.
Right.
Thank you.
I woke up this morning thinking I was going to try to present something that was calm and collected and easy for everybody to understand. So I did some recordings and I put them into print and I presented them to you guys. I hope you've read them. I didn't want to sit up here for a half hour trying to go through all this stuff, but now that I've heard all this stuff, I don't even really know where to begin. But the absurdity of all this, the accusations that Ms. Boyd makes are just...
To relive all the accusations and all the things that could have been done and should have been done and didn't get done, I don't
Right.
see the point in that, Bill.
I want to address one thing though, Rick.
Okay.
She's alluded to this little yellow circle on the corner of the property there over and over and over again. When I bought this property, she's also alluded to an 11-inch elevation, and that's true. I raised up my side to prevent the runoff that went all to her property prior to my ownership of this thing, and eliminated 100%. She has continually accused me of running water into her property, like it's going to flood her basement, it's going to contaminate her well, all kinds of crazy accusations. That water that's back there in that corner, after a year ago or whatever it was, I thought was coming down between the properties as it always had. Still something, when it gets around that side and goes down where the 11-inch raise is, it gets there and it goes down where it was. One of the first conversations I had with Kathy when I actually kind of formally met her after about 6 months was about that same area. And she was proud to show me this netting that she had put down there to try to control the erosion in that area because everything went that way. Now, she keeps showing these trickles of water that are probably escaping through an incomplete area that is just like, I forgot the substitute that was in here the other day that said the shingles aren't on the roof yet, the roof's going to leak. The job's not done. So how can it, you can't do this. You got to let me finish it. She's alluding to, what, 9-foot, 10-foot walls? I don't know where there's a 10-foot wall anywhere, 9-foot wall. There's nothing over 5 feet right now. Most everything is down at 4 feet. And when it's done, when the grading is done, nothing will be over 4 feet. I do not intend to put railings on anything. There never was railings on the old retaining wall. She alludes to, what, a 4.5-foot elevation I've added? Where? There's an old retaining wall there. I've added about a foot, foot and a half to level out that corner and square it up. I didn't raise anything. It was already there, except for that little bit to level it out, make it better. Everything is pitched towards the south, away from her property. There is no water that I'm aware of that comes from my property onto her property. There's also no erosion anywhere. And the likelihood of there ever being any erosion with the system that is built right now is extremely rare because it all disappears underground. You don't even see it. I've had Mark McGuire, is it, from Gordy Fraser out there in the rain, under umbrellas, and witnessing a shower, what's happening, watching the water disappear through the culverts and down into the stone beds that are all over the place. There's like 17 yards of drain stone hidden out there that capture this stuff. What is the likelihood of it ever even coming out short of a 3-inch rain like we had on June 26th a couple years ago before anything was done that dumped a little bit of sand on her yard down near the lake. That was it. That was all the erosion that has ever gone over to her yard that is a legitimate violation of erosion. And what this comes down to, Rick, is no matter what happens here, these are soil and erosion issues, violations that deserve a ticket or a correction notice, and I gotta correct it. It's that simple. You know, this is, Mount Everest has been made out of this little pea hole. It's just ridiculous. The whole thing's ridiculous. It's so simple. And then, because of all this confusion that everybody seems to have about what I did and what it will do and what it won't do, I decided to say, all right, let's just forget it all. Let's act like it's never been done, and I will run the water over the surface. There is about 4,800 square feet of sod that's going to capture all this water that comes from the road down the driveway. When it hits the house, it's going to just go around the house because there's a 21-foot drop to the lake. 4,800 square feet of sod, about 350 feet of planters, and nothing else. It goes down 3 tiers, and it's just, the likelihood of there ever being any erosion is so remote. This is all ridiculous. And that's why I objected strenuously to a maintenance agreement and a bond to do what? If this thing clogged up, this underground system I had clogged up and failed, what would happen? It would go up to the surface and it would ride down to the lake over the lawn.
I don't know what Gordy Frazier's reasoning is for the bond.
I don't either.
I have no idea, but we had discussions regarding that. And, you know, if you want to replace System A with a new system that's been approved by Gordy Frazier, that's your prerogative.
Well,
To me, System A, the one that you got in place, if it's finished, is adequate.
System A being what's in place right now, as built up to this date.
Yeah.
It's more than adequate.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
it's
So I-
beyond
again,
any
you
expectation
can
of
replace
something
it
like
if you
this.
want to, but
Well, I don't want to. I'm just
Oh.
trying to simplify this so that it's almost, you know, anybody can understand it. You can,
Sure.
and what else can you do except cover the property with lawn?
no,
Nothing.
I feel comfortable saying that with all Gordy Frazier's involvement in this, once this thing is finished, it's gonna work just fine. I really. 'cause
It
they're
has
good-
to, Rick.
They're smart.
You don't get a final permit approval if it doesn't work.
Yeah.
You just don't. And as far as somebody not inspecting something, I've been having inspections for 45 years in my trade. If we get something buried or we bury something before the inspector sees it, he's got the right to come out and make us rip drywall down or do whatever in the house. And we do, and it happens occasionally. If Gordy Frazier wants to see something and they're adamant about it, we dig it up and show it to them. As far as this liner we're talking about, that first occurrence of that little yellow deal that showed this concentrated runoff going down the corner there, I went home that night immediately. I got all the water pressure I could get, and I ran it down my driveway. First of all, to see where it was going. Dry driveway, I wanted to watch it flow. It flows towards the center. She's alluded to removing the concrete. That's helped the water flow. I have videos of that water flowing towards the middle of my driveway. It's never gone over there. This is the kind of stuff that gets me so wound up to listen to her. So it's just, I don't know. I'm wound up and I don't want to be. I know this thing works. What I've got in place is done. An engineer's got the ability to approve something without seeing it if he sees that it functions. Gordy Frazier has seen that this functions. I will pay the fire department to come out and unload a tanker on my driveway to prove it if you want. And I'm not that confident in it. I know it works.
That's between Gordy Frazier and the township. I don't know.
But I
Well,
mean,
Bill, nobody wants to put this away any more than this board.
this guy does. I want to finish the job.
I'm sure Mrs. Boyd does too.
I'm not so sure.
Well,
She has said that she's not going to stop ever.
I hope that's. not
She
the
said it
case.
to right here in this building, to
I
officials
think
in this
she's
building.
reasonable enough. If we get this, if everything's compliant, she'll be fine.
I hope you're not betting.
Board members, any more questions, any more comments?
Yeah, it's unfortunate that we are, 2 years into all of this. It's unfortunate that a permit wasn't gotten in the beginning.
Can I address that too?
We've been over this stuff. We don't need, we're fine.
I'm sick of
We're
hearing
fine.
that there was no permit, Rick. There was a permit. It was a soil erosion permit. That's all I needed. Mike sent me an email saying I did not need a land use permit.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
Okay. And if Gordy Fraser has gone ahead and certified drawings that say, if you do this and this and this, your problem is not gonna happen, we deserve to let Gordy go back in and dig up whatever they're saying, or she's questioning a corner or whatever. But I also think we do need to go ahead and get it finished in order to see whether or not it is pass or fail. And if it's a fail, Gordy Weber's name's on the way.
We've been trying to get that from day one. Let us finish the work.
So,
It's like trying to call a basketball game halfway through.
Do you think it's practical and okay to do a temporary permit to finish this and then?
I'll let Ross help us with that. if you
Ross,
don't
what do you
mind.
think?
Yeah.
If you don't mind, that's all right, just,
Well, one thing I would note is that your new ordinance, ordinance number 49, relates to stormwater control, does provide for what's known as sequential applications. Yes, I know. And I just want to make clear to Your Honor, or Mr. Chair, that since this is a public hearing, we'll need to make sure that anybody who wants to speak has the opportunity.
We'll get there.
The main thing I just wanted to address is that, you know, your new ordinance number 49, is Charter Township of Garfield Stormwater Control Ordinance, under Section B, provides for sequential applications. And I'll read it so that folks understand what it says. If a development on a site is so large or complex that a stormwater control plan encompassing all phases of the project cannot reasonably be prepared prior to initial groundbreaking, then an application for a permit for successive major incremental earth change activities may be allowed. Requests for sequential applications shall be approved by the enforcement agent prior to submittal of the initial permit application. Approval of sequential applications shall take place in 2 phases. First, the overall conceptual plan for the entire development shall be submitted for review and approval. Second, detailed plans for sections of the total project shall be submitted for review and approval upon request of the enforcement agent. All permits processed and issued for phases of a project shall be clearly defined as to the nature and extent of the work covered. Again, also under this ordinance, you also have the ability to provide conditional approval, whereby you can give approval based on the condition that it meets certain requirements, and one of those requirements could be a snapback so that the approval is withdrawn if Gordy Fraser, for instance, does not certify that the project meets those requirements. So there are ways to do this in a way that allows things to move forward, but then allows for snapback or continued enforcement based on what you see.
Let's do that.
So,
yeah. So what do we need, what does the board need to do? Do they need to modify their?
so here, I mean, I don't want to get ahead of any of the public comments, but I think, you know, one of the issues, of course, before you tonight is just this particular appeal and what Mrs. Boyd has included in terms of her specific appeal. And to begin with, I would like to say that I don't disagree with what Mr. Beganowski said or what Ms. Boyd said at the outset, which is that, yes, your zoning ordinance provides that you're supposed to get all of your additional approvals from other governmental agencies prior to a final approval being issued. Don't disagree with that at all. That wasn't how the appeal read to us. The appeal said, why isn't the ZBA enforcing the stormwater ordinance? And again, that's a different take. And so I recognize that maybe there's, you know, some semantic differences, but when it comes to the law, obviously it's important for us to represent things appropriately. And so to the extent that, you know, my memo was inconsistent with that, that's not the intent at all. But the intent is you don't have the ability to enforce the stormwater ordinance, but you can require that stormwater ordinance compliance is obtained prior to issuing your approval. So that's kind of where that comes down. But again, Ms. Boyd appealed, well, she submitted her appeal in May, and describes a couple different things. The first is the appeal the decision by Mr. Green to uphold the soil erosion permit. Again, she's sort of taken that off the agenda based on the issue with Part 91. And so we're going to proceed then to the second portion of her appeal, which was the, and this is how she describes it, appeal decision by M. Green to not enforce Garfield Township's ordinances, failure to uphold ruling of Garfield Township Zoning Board of Appeals. date September 19, 2024, Stormwater Ordinance 49, Ordinance 515 and 535, construction of new structure within 10-foot side yard setback and within riparian buffer of Silver Lake. So starting with the latter of those, the riparian buffer and the wall height, again, as Mr. Green indicated, and as was said before, the final height is not obtained yet. There is a designed height. It's not in excess of what the ordinance allows. So to the extent that the appeal is appealing the current status rather than the final status, I don't know that that's really appropriate at this point. Again, you all discussed this in your September meeting, and you declined to add it. There wasn't any specific finding because, again, this was sort of in process and it hadn't been finalized yet. So if, again, the final as-built does not meet the ordinance, then the township would have the ability to enforce the ordinance. But that's not where we're at right now, and so what you need to weigh is whether or not Mr. Green has failed to enforce that requirement. My recommendation would be to find that he has not failed to enforce that because he has in fact upheld the stop work order and the stay, the automatic stay, that the Zoning Enabling Act enforces once you have an appeal that's filed before the ZBA. So in my estimation as to that, he's done everything that's appropriate. As to the stormwater ordinance, my understanding is that there, again, Mr. Wagner disagrees with the imposition of the bond and disagrees with the maintenance issue. Those were portions of the ruling that you all added to the ruling. Those are still dependent on also the engineer's recommendations. So I don't find that Mr. Green has failed to enforce those because at this point, it's something that Mr. Wagner disagrees with and he has not complied with those requirements. So to the extent that what Ms. Boyd's appeal relates to is Mr. Green's failure to enforce both of those aspects of your ordinances, my interpretation is that he has not failed that and that you can deny the appeal on that basis. Now, that doesn't mean that her rights go away or that she has no interest going forward. Obviously, she'll continue to monitor the situation. She still has her civil remedies available to her as to her neighboring property owner, and she can still monitor, enforcement. And once things progress, if they progress, then she can bring appeals at another time. But what she's appealing here are two aspects that are both currently in flux and have not yet been finalized and are still subject to this stop work order and the suspension of the permit based on that September hearing.
Just conversation, if we table this and he goes forward with temporary permits, gets it done, gets it approved, this pretty much all goes away. Is that how I see it?
Well, my recommendation wouldn't be to table her appeal based on the fact that what's been raised aren't really issues. That said, if he was to address it, she certainly could accede to say, yes, that satisfies, my concerns, and she's, could provide information that she's no longer intending to appeal further, but that's she has that right in decision-making, authority for herself. But again, I think as to the specifics of her appeal, those related to those narrow issues, and I don't see that there's any violation that the township zoning administrator has gone outside of what you ruled last September.
Thank you. Now we'll open it up to the public. Anyone want to comment, question? Sure.
Out of respect to you, I've written my comments.
Your name, sir, and address?
Yep, I'll give it to you in a second. And I'll follow those, but I'm going to modify them slightly. So if I stutter or stop, that's the reason. Yep. So my name is Brian Lishawa, and in my letter I'll describe who I am and why I'm here. Is that all right?
Yeah.
Okay. Good. Mr. Smith, ZBA officers, Mr. Barshef, Mr. Green, and gathered community members. I grew up in this community and observed my father on various Long Lake Township boards, including the zoning board. Thank you for serving the community in the thankless work that you do, including this. I've been a resident of Garfield Township for 16 years. I now spend many of my days and nights caring for your children, parents, and neighbors as a hospital physician at Munson. I've known Miss Boyd for nearly 30 years. I've watched her care expertly and compassionately for sick adults and kids in the United States and abroad, and have witnessed repeatedly and consistently her care for neighbors, friends, and strangers alike. She served as a flight medic for years over Boston, kept countless people alive with her skills and compassion during the COVID pandemic. As you have seen, she can handle herself professionally when mistreated. She also makes banana bread for her new neighbors.
Doctor, I don't mean to interrupt your speech or what have you, but somehow tie it together. How is this relevant to the issues at hand?
Sir, you are interrupting and delaying me from completing my statements. Would you let me continue, please?
If you could make it relevant, sure.
Can you trust me to make it relevant?
Go ahead.
Thank you. As you have seen, she can handle herself professionally when mistreated. She also makes banana bread for new neighbors, knows the names of their children and pets, and is sure to keep extra snacks in the cupboards in case those kids or pets arrive at her doorstep. Over the last 2 years, I have watched with concern as the current owners of 1661 Lake Drive, who also received baked goods from Miss Boyd when they moved to the neighborhood, and whose yellow lab she befriended, have treated Miss Boyd, common neighborhood courtesy, township ordinances, and even township officials with increasing contempt. In just a few public meetings, this board has witnessed loud, profane heckling of Miss Boyd by the residents and family members of residents at 1661 Lake Drive as she attempted to present to this board. Unjustified and inappropriate finger-pointing, name-calling, and jowl wagging at Mr. Boyd by their grandstanding attorney, treatment which, if it were directed at your daughters, would have raised the hackles and fists of even the most reserved fathers in this room. Repeated attempts by the owners of 1661 Lake Drive to subvert and bypass township ordinances, curry favor with local officials, blatantly ignore and discard firm decisions on the structure set by this board. The board's decisions have been clear, consistent, and rational. Mr. Smith has repeatedly advised the owners of 1661 Lake Drive to develop a plan that complies with township ordinances, review it with township engineers and officials for approval, and then break ground and follow the plan. Throughout this ordeal, Ms. Boyd's only request has been for the township to require the owners of 1661 Lake Drive to develop and implement plans that follow township ordinances. Don't erode her property, don't flood her basement, don't cut the roots of her trees, don't violate setbacks. Simply put, follow the law. Sadly, the township zoning administrator and his supervisors have failed repeatedly to enforce township ordinances and to protect Ms. Boyd's property. To protect her property from the consistent and predictable threats posed by the owners of 1661 Lake Drive, and equally from the inept monitoring and toothless enforcement of township ordinances by Mr. Green and others, Ms. Boyd has been forced into two roles she would never have chosen. One, monitoring the unlawful work done by the owners of 1661 Lake Drive, and two, attempting to hold the zoning administrator and his supervisors accountable to fulfill his duties. Were it not for her intervention and approaching you, none of this would be present. The projects would have gone on without permit. She has been forced to exchange her muffin tins for erosion videos, presentations to the ZBA, and FOIA requests. Mr. Green, as a direct consequence of your lack of enforcement, this situation has accelerated and escalated to the circus we all now see. Repeated ZBA meetings, tens of thousands of dollars in township legal fees, multiple lawyers present at a simple meeting like this. I could go on. Ms. Boyd has been made the enemy both by her neighbor because of her refusal to ignore the harm done to her property, and by the township because of her refusal to remain silent. And in the face of a narcissist who has repeatedly shown this board and all in attendance that he will stop at nothing to get his way, it has created the perfect storm for her to become the victim of a relentless scheme of harassment, slander, and intimidation by the same people who have heckled her during these meetings. My requests of this board are to consider Ms. Boyd's justifiable concerns, to assure that township ordinances are followed in this case, and to not set aside common sense and human decency as you attempt to manage the absurd theater that these simple matters have become. Sincerely, Brian Lashua. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else
Yeah,
have a
can I
comment?
get up and wave my own flag, explain to you how?
Is that really necessary?
No.
Thank you.
No.
Anyone else in the audience have any comments? Yes, sir.
Is there any proof that
Can you come up to the mic, introduce yourself, please?
I'm Bob Wagner, I'm Bill's son? I've been working on the project with him the whole time. And just addressing the flooding in the basement and ruining her water well.
We
Is there
really need
proof
to
of
go
that?
over this again.
She goes over everything 10 times.
Do we really need to? Is he going to accomplish something by berating them and we did that,
I'm
you
just
did this?
addressing what he's bringing
Go-
up.
Go ahead.
So where's the proof of that?
I don't know.
I don't know either. So it's just an allegation that, like everything else.
Thank you. Anyone else in the audience? If there is nobody else in the audience, we'll close it to the public, open it back up to the board. Any more questions or discussion? No? Bob, you look like you got a question. No?
No, I haven't heard anything new. That's part that bothers
Okay.
me.
If not, we'd hear a motion to approve or deny the request made by Ms. Boyd. And we'll need a reason if you choose to approve or deny. Mike, did you have something?
Well, the reason to deny, I think, is included in the attorney's letter. He sets, I believe he gave you a recommended motion on that.
Okay.
If you don't have it, if I can't find it, I'm sure Ross can maybe give you a copy. I think I have it in here somewhere. Apologize.
I thought I saw
Here
it
he
in here.
comes.
This is the June 18th memo that may be in your packet. Yeah, the end of that memo includes the following potential motion. I move to accept the recommendations set forth in the zoning administrator staff report and in the memorandum pertaining to this appeal provided by the township's legal counsel, and to therefore deny the appeal from Kathy Boyd of 1669 Lake Drive for the reasons stated in those documents.
Thank you. You guys all find that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Do we
So-
need to read it to have it admitted into the minutes, or the fact that the attorney read it? Are we all good? Pardon? I like that. So moved.
So move. Motion is made. Roll call vote for the motion, please.
Here, yep.
Who seconded that?
Yeah,
I'll
someone-
second.
Thanks.
Okay, so Castiglione second? Who
Yes.
Yes.
seconded?
Yes, he did.
Yes? Okay. So Castiglione, yes?
Yes.
Okay, Fudge,
Yes.
Rozicki,
Yes.
and Smith.
Yes. Motion carries. Appeals denied. Okay. Next on the agenda, request made by Bill Wagner, resident of 1661 Lake Drive, to seek a modification of a decision made by the ZBA in their September 19th meeting to impose various stormwater requirements as permit conditions. The subject property located at 1661 Lake Drive with property number 05-295-035-00. Someone representing Mr. Wagner?
Yeah, we've kind of included some of this in the previous things here. When I was informed of the bond and the maintenance agreement, which was really not described at all. I mean, I don't think anybody even understood what a failure might be, because ultimately, a failure is irrelevant because of it all comes to the surface, goes over the surface and ends up in the lake. There's no erosion there. There's no infiltration of the water onto the neighbor's property. Therefore, what is the purpose of all that stuff? If it was not maintained, if it needed maintenance and it wasn't maintained, it would fail. The water would rise to the surface and roll down the lawn to the lake. Not going on neighbor's property, that is 100% compliant with the requirements of the soil and erosion ordinance. So what's the reason to engage in a $10,000 bond and an open-ended, I never heard any language about a sunset clause on that thing, year after year after year. That's why I proposed this new, abandoning that whole thing to get it out of everybody's mind and do a system that is literally on the surface.
We asked if Gordy Frazier would be here tonight and be able to deal with
Right.
your point, Bill, and they weren't available, I guess. Before I'd want to know why they require a bond. To me,
It's unprecedented, Rick.
If-
Has it ever been done?
to me, if this is done to their specifications and their engineering, and it's all compliant, after that, if it works, after maybe, I don't know, 6 months, if there's no issues, I don't see a reason for a bond. But I want to hear why they are saying what they're saying.
Early on, they also offered some suggestions of some things that I might do when I was only at the first tier of this job, about adding some weeping pipes and maybe some more drain stone and whatnot. The board, or the zoning, took that up and put it into a requirement for me. I called them and I said, what is that for? And they said, well, it's only a suggestion. I said, well, then take it out of there, because it's just a suggestion. It doesn't mean anything. It's irrelevant, which they did, and that went away. I then, in turn, later, went ahead and did that on my own fruition, where I added more stone, I added the weeping holes, and in that area, that's where the pond liner is that stops anything from, nothing goes through a pond liner. So, I'm just asking that they remove that recommendation that they made to you guys, and you guys just picked it up. You guys didn't dream that up. That came from Gordy Frazier.
Oh, and that's why I need an explanation from them.
Yeah, they need to withdraw it. Then that should allow you to just, it's not there anymore,
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
that bond is an insurance policy, so to guarantee that he does the job, and if he doesn't, you take the money from the bond and go in and do it yourself.
Oh, I understand that. But to me, once it's built to specification and it works,
They're basically asking me to guarantee their design.
right,
That's not right.
well, that's why I'd like an explanation.
If the bond was removed and your work does fail at the end, what is the legal recourse? Can all his work be ripped out and put back
He's
before
ticketed
the
and
work?
fined and made it to repair it, as far as is that how it
Right.
goes?
We have, we have enforcement mechanisms in our stormwater ordinance and same with our soil erosion. If there's any violations, we can go in there and fix it after going through a legal process, of course, and then put it on his tax bill. So we can go in there and basically do the same thing if we had a bond. We can go in there and charge it to his tax bill, and it would be put on as a lien on the property.
It all boils down to soil erosion, though. You're trying to prevent erosion, the two things, erosion and water going onto the neighbor's property, adjoining property. If that happens, the soil and erosion inspector, who now is Mike, comes on and writes you a violation, says, fix it. And you fix it, If you don't fix it, I'm sure there's other mechanisms to make me fix it, like you just said. You slap an assessment on me after the fact. I mean, this is unprecedented. I doubt if there's anything like this in a residential property particularly, and I'd even challenge if there's anything like this been applied to a commercial property anywhere. It just doesn't make sense. They're asking me to guarantee their design and my expense and everything on my shoulders. So what do I need them for then? What do you need them for then?
I wish they
Matter
were
of
here
fact,
to answer that.
this whole thing, nothing's changed. The whole thing's worked as built from day one. And in the minimal amounts of time that I had to work on this stuff, my son and I would work till dark because we knew another attack was coming from the neighbor. And it did every single time. And we get a stop work order, which was an automatic reaction to that appeal, and we had to stop again. And that's happened over and over. You mentioned it, 30 days, 45 days, 117 days. In the last 2 years, I haven't been able to touch anything. And everything that you see out there, and every illusion, talking about 10-foot this and that and everything, it's all because I'm stopped from doing the job. I got to commend you, Kent, for thinking about this stuff. you're putting thought into this thing, and what you're saying is absolutely right. Let me finish the work. Let it get inspected. I can't get an approval until it's done correctly. If it's done correctly, then in theory, it should never fail, right? But I gotta finish it first. You know, there won't be any walls over 4 feet. There's not gonna be any railings. They're not required on a retaining wall. You know, there's just, all this stuff is just, it's just beyond the pale here. So that's why I was objecting to that bond and that maintenance agreement. It's just not needed.
We will, we'll get to the bottom of that as to why Gordy Frazier,
When you talk to them.
they think they're home tonight?
No, I'm saying, well, that's what you're saying, when you get back to them and let them.
It seems to me that the bond is burdensome.
Is what?
Burdensome. And it seems,
Is what?
it's a burden.
Burdensome.
Oh, yeah.
That was my feelings, and Mike and I talked about it. Once it's approved,
Yeah, and
Gordy Frazier's specifications.
And there are
and it works.
enforcement methods that the township has without a bond that the township could pursue if something does fail.
All right.
The only thing I'd say to that is that maybe there's something that we are not talking about or don't know about that Gordy Frazier has put that in there for. That would be my only question.
Right,
I don't know what.
yeah,
I can't imagine.
yeah.
Mike, I asked Mike, they didn't say anything
When
to
you
him.
talk to them, ask them if there's another one. Say, show me an example of another one.
I don't think there's another drainage system like this on Silver Lake either.
Right, I know, it's overdone, it's overbuilt.
Well, it's gonna work. It's
It's
gonna
gonna
be
work.
very effective.
There's no question about it.
Maybe it's a new model.
So my story of my life, I overbuild everything we do, I always have.
Thank you. You all set for now?
I just wanna know, am I gonna get some kind of permit so I can finish this job?
Sounds like we're gonna give you a temporary permit.
I think, I guess we can discuss that. Yeah, yeah.
Anybody else, excuse me, I'm gonna open the meeting to the public. Anybody wanna comment on? Yes, sir.
On Ms. Boyd's behalf, the appeal was to modify the conditions that were previous. We have no problem with that as long as you don't modify the one that says he's got to make Gordy Frazier happy. If they say it's this high, if they say it's this high, whatever Gordy Frazier says, we'll abide by. So don't modify that part.
That's been the rules since day one, sir.
That's called a final inspection.
Anybody on the board, excuse me, anybody else in the audience? Close it to the public. Anybody have any more questions? Yes, sir.
How long will it take him to finish?
I don't know, that's a good question.
He did,
Last year, if you think back, you guys were gonna give me 2 weeks. 2 weeks, that was a year ago almost.
he told me they work till dark, so.
Whatever we do,
We'll get it
we
done
work
as
till,
soon as it
we do.
has to get
We get a
done.
lot of work done in a short amount of time.
So you can get it done in 2 weeks?
Yes.
Okay.
Out of, with your, which 2 weeks?
That's the young guy talking, not the old guy. So-
No, there's a whole bunch of stuff coming up right now. Let's say 3 weeks, get past the fireworks and all that.
That's between you guys. So what's our procedure here? Do we,
Yeah, I think we should invite Ross into the conversation here
okay,
and see what his thoughts are and how we can proceed.
Thank you. So this is a situation in which formerly the zoning administrator essentially appealed on behalf of Mr. Wagner to bring this before you, and that's the procedure by which this has taken place. My understanding is that part of the basis for that was that we were going to receive, in advance of the meeting, the proposal of the engineering changes that would be made to the property. One thing I would note is that when the September 2024 decision became final, there was an appeal timeline in there by which Mr. Wagner could have formally appealed the requirement for the bond or for any of the other aspects of what you ruled. That did not happen. So to a certain extent, this appeal now is essentially kind of a long time after the actual statutory appeal deadline by which you would formally be able to appeal that. Now, without changed plans, it does not look great to then go back and completely just rescind what you had required at an earlier time based on the findings of your engineers. So without any updated engineering plans, I don't see how, at this point, you can entertain an appeal of those matters because you don't have anything to replace them with. There's no basis on which you can find that those drawings were insufficient and these, whatever the new plan will be sufficient. So my sense is that at this point, it's probably appropriate to either table this appeal or to deny it and have him come back at a later point once he's actually presented the engineer's plans to you. You've had a chance to present those to your engineer, have them review those plans, determine whether or not they feel like they're going to work or not, and then you can potentially instruct, Mr. Green to issue a temporary or conditional approval, and, then require the property owner to then meet those requirements as the engineer would state them. But at this point, it seems premature to make a decision on any sort of modification of the existing plans without any sort of actual documented plan in front of you by which to do that.
Simplest road is to table it, would you agree?
That would be my recommendation at this time, yes, until you've got a more, until you have a formal submission that requests a change
So
in specifications.
if Gordy Frazier's gonna meet with you, and if everybody agrees, he can get a temporary permit, and then if it's all approved and go ahead, is there a need for another appeal, or can it just?
I think there would be, because he's trying to not pay the performance bond.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah,
So
we gotta deal with
it
that.
will need to
Right,
be.
that's- The prior order still exists.
So
and
does
we
he
would
need to come back?
modify
Oh,
that.
sorry. Does he need to come back and file a different appeal to do what he wants, or? I mean,
I will leave
if
that
he
to him and
does-
his attorney. I think you can table this now, and if he submits plans, you could reconsider that, but you could also deny it and just ask for him to resubmit at a later point once he's got those plans. That's kind of in consultation. Okay.
Yeah, okay, we hear a motion to deny it or table it, I guess is
Any
our
other-
choices.
Happy to answer any other questions.
I move that we table this.
I second that.
Okay, motion has been made and supported, we have roll call for the motion, please?
Yes?
Frickie,
Yes?
Castiglione,
No.
Fudge,
Yes,
and Smith.
Yes, motion carries. Tabled. Any other business? Item 4.
I do not. The only thing I wanted to tell you, and I forgot to bring the pamphlet, there's some ZBA training. I can forward an email to you. It looks like online training if you're interested. I'll send the brochure. We do have money in the budget. We have the approval to do it. So any one of you are welcome to partake in that. So just want to let you know that. So
Any items for the next agenda?
possibly bringing this back again.
Any other public comment? There's no other public comment? Yes, ma'am.
I have a question. Okay, so with the decisions we've made this evening, and we've discussed having the gentleman go ahead and finish his project, is that what,
With temporary permits.
with the temporary permits? So you can get in there, get your project done, have Gordy Fraser inspect everything. It's on their badge then if it doesn't work, because you're,
So that's why I submitted that new
Yeah.
plan, which I thought they sent to Gordy Fraser already.
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't think your decisions allowed that. And Russ, you can correct me if I'm wrong. Lynn was asking if he could do temporary work.
to finish his project.
Yeah, and I don't think that was addressed
What do
anywhere
we have to do
tonight.
to allow that to happen?
In order for him to proceed,
In order for him to proceed with the plans as they're currently situated, he would have to meet your requirements of your September 19th, 2024 ruling,
Okay.
right? and Mr. Green could potentially issue a conditional approval based on strict requirements or strict adherence to those requirements. If what they want to do is to modify what they're doing on the site, then they're gonna have to submit those plans, and we're gonna have to come to another meeting, and you're gonna have to agree to modify those plans so that you're modifying your order from last year, so that he no longer has to meet those requirements that presently he has to meet, if that makes sense.
So that means that that Gordy Fraser has to speak up to what as-built is now, and whether it will work, or whether they have to make the provisions to change it?
Yes, I mean, my assumption is that they would be submitting plans. They wouldn't necessarily submit any final plans for what's built now, because they're ostensibly attempting to change that.
Okay.
So they would need to provide what those proposed plans would be, to then have your engineer and you all evaluate them and determine whether they're sufficient, and provide a basis on which you can then modify your September ruling and remove some of those requirements based on how that new plan is supposed to work.
Okay.
Did that answer your question? I hope?
Yes.
But it appears to me that all the stuff that he started and hasn't finished has already been approved. I mean, that's,
Right, but like you said, you've got inspection issues and the bond that have not been met.
I
So
don't,
compliance
I
isn't,
don't see any changes necessary from him.
in terms of well, we need an engineer to be able to say whether or not any change in those plans is going to be sufficient,
Right.
because I can't make that determination.
Would you say that's 3/4 finished?
Half,
Yeah.
north half, the side that's really in question, has proven itself already. The south side, even in the condition it's in, has almost no erosion. Even with all the rain we've had this year, there's a minimal amount of silt that reached the silt fence. With all this rain, in the mud, the side that's done, there's I mean, the water that she's talking about could be literally coming down the fence line, you know?
Yep. Yeah, so luckily I'm not an engineer, so we don't have to listen to me blather on about whether or not it's gonna work. But we would need to have an engineer speak on either the current plans or the modified plans, I would say, prior to you making a decision to modify your September ruling.
As Gordy Fraser is our township engineer, can we force them to come to the next meeting?
I would say no, but we can certainly ask them to.
I think
Yeah,
part of the issue
Chris
was
is
that
here
they didn't,
tonight.
there wasn't a plan to review yet. And so I think that
Yeah.
was, I mean, I worked with Mr. Barchef to try to get, the timing to work out so that we had a plan for you all to review tonight, or had
Yeah.
actually had the engineer had time to review that plan prior to tonight, ideally to wrap it all up in one meeting, but it
Right.
doesn't seem like, because that plan,
Hopefully we'll see
we don't have that
everybody.
plan yet, so we haven't been able to do that, just,
Hopefully,
Yeah.
we'll see everybody next month.
could be.
Yeah, I can explain if you care to know the timeline on the review since the last meeting, just on the latest revision. So, Gordy it looks like Bill Wagner had his engineer submit plans, maybe about a month ago. And Gordy Fraser reviewed them, asked for some revisions on the 13th of this month. Bill came in about a week later. At that time, we hadn't heard anything of any submittals from Bill Crane. I let Bill Wagner know that we were still waiting on Bill Crane to submit. He did submit within a few days, but that brought us up to, I believe, the 26th. So the latest submittal was only a few days ago. So, then I guess there was some other revisions that they asked for just a day or two ago. So we're still going through the review process. So Gordy Fraser was not able to provide a letter as of tonight. So I believe that's probably why they're not here, because there's really nothing to talk about.
Bill Crane did receive those last batch of questions from Gordy Fraser and answered them. They have them in their hand.
Yeah.
Right now, I have them right here too.
Right, then that happened. The last email I have is, let's see. Oh, wait a minute, I'm on the wrong email. Oh, Mark McGuire. Sorry, I got all these different emails. Oh, yeah, Bill Crane emailed Mark McGuire on today at 4:04 PM. So he responded to the questions at 4 o'clock this afternoon. So probably not enough time for Gordy Fraser to respond with a letter, unfortunately, but it's ongoing. I mean, I'm sure they'll get there, and hopefully by the next meeting, we'll have something. So,
Okay.
and when we do have something, I'm sure we'll do what we can to get Gordy Fraser to show up at the meeting.
Okay.
It's called getting paid.
Everybody happy? We hear a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion that we adjourn this meeting.
Second?
All in favor?
Third. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We're adjourned.